team of experts will investigate her life.
Why does he attack you, Carla? Not anyone else.
Why is she going to such lengths to support this delusion?
They will find the entity.
Welcome back to the 13th annual Halloween special. I am so excited to be talking about scary movies with you again this October. Tonight we're going to be talking about a film called The Entity. It was directed by Sidney Furie and came out in 1982. To describe the film in its simplest terms, a woman, played by Barbara Hershey, is tormented by an invisible being. Before I go any further, I want to give a very clear trigger warning because this movie deals with some very mature subject matter. There are words that I literally cannot say, or my video will be demonetized instantaneously. I'll just say that the word tormented is a very safe way to describe what this woman experiences in this film. And it's a very dark movie. It's a movie that I avoided watching for many years because I knew of the plot. It is loosely based off of a real-life story. This was very popular in the 80s because of films like The Exorcist or the Amityville Horror. And those two reasons, the fact that the film deals with some very dark subject matter and the inspirations of The Exorcist and the Amityville Horror, are the biggest reasons that the film did not go over that well initially. It was heavily compared to those two movies in a lot of the reviews of its era, but it was also protested against in some places. And so for years I built it up in my head as this movie in which a woman is consistently tortured or hurt by an invisible being, a ghost or a demon, and I didn't want to watch that. I viewed the movie as this very extreme, exploitative film, and it's nothing like that. Having finally seen it, I was truly blown away by how many films have been inspired by The Entity. Yes, there is an aspect of this movie that 100% wouldn't really be a thing you see anymore nowadays. It would be the type of thing that a female filmmaker would absolutely have to tackle and find a way to make it relevant for today's times. Beyond that, the way the film is helmed, cut together, and the long scenes of dialogue and conversations between characters feel very much so like they inspired quite a bit of films. There are moments in this movie that reminded me of Insidious. There are very specific moments in the movie that modern horror has borrowed a lot from. Let's talk about Barbara Hershey because this is an absolutely fearless performance. And I say fearless, but she was quoted at the time as being very scared to take on this movie because of the things that she has to do on screen. But the director assured her that it would be filmed and cut together in a way that felt tasteful. And I suppose having watched the movie, it is the most tasteful version of these sequences and how they might play out. And on the out-of-print Shout Factory Blu-ray, she was interviewed as saying that she did feel safe while making the movie and she actually enjoyed making the film. And once I heard that, it did finally bring me to watch the movie because, you know, when you hear about stories of movies that were made in the 70s and 80s that do feature a lot of violence, especially against women, you do tend to hear that the on-set experience was volatile. So I was glad to hear that the on-set experience for her was nothing like that. I watch a lot of horror. You guys know that. It's my favorite genre. But it is very rare that a film actually does scare me. And The Entity did. This film bothered me. It made me feel very uneasy and extremely uncomfortable. And I think it's because you really do feel like you are in her shoes. And the idea that you could be attacked at any given time in your own home is terrifying. Now, there is a very trashy version of this movie that could have been made. And I think that's the version that a lot of people thought it was in 1982. And when they saw it, they just thought, well, yeah, my thoughts are confirmed. Or perhaps they just hadn't seen anything like it before. All these years later, after the fact, after quite a bit of Lars von Trier movies and other more extreme films, this doesn't feel like the type of movie that was described to me for so many years whenever I would read about it. But that didn't stop it from being any less horrifying. I think this is one of the scariest movies of the 1980s. And it also felt extremely relevant for today's times, in that a woman is going to a bunch of people, almost unanimously men, and saying, "This is happening to me," or "This happened to me. Please believe me." And none of them do. They all think she's crazy. It's strikingly modern in its appeal. And eventually, after continuing to subject herself to a lot of humiliation whenever she tries to explain what's going on to her, she becomes a lab rat, someone to be studied, someone to be picked apart by groups of people who maybe don't care about her, but would just like to learn a little bit about her, or to watch her or observe her. Again, this feels very relevant and modern. Also, the approach to showing or not showing the entity. You rarely see anything. There's a few suggestions and photographs, and there's one moment near the end that I think maybe didn't necessarily have to happen, involving liquid helium, but almost for the entire movie, you see absolutely nothing. And you just feel this oppressive force that is going to attack her at any given time, and doesn't care if she's sitting with her own children in the same room, which was one of the more horrifying things I've seen in a horror movie in years. I'm glad that I waited as long as I did to watch this, to be honest, because it's kind of like that experience I had with The Exorcist when I was younger. It was built up so much. My parents were like, don't even touch the VHS of it at Blockbuster or a demon will follow you home. Building up this movie as far more trashy than it actually is made the experience of watching it great, because I realized that there was such a sure hand behind the camera and that a lot of care was given to this subject matter. And that even though it could be viewed as that type of Amityville horror, exploitative subject matter where you take someone's real life trauma and then make a horror movie out of it, it didn't feel that way at all. Barbara Hershey is terrific here. This is an incredible performance that has gone unpraised. Like, there's a lot of folks that like this movie, but I just think it's so phenomenal. And I haven't really seen a film like this in a very long time, especially out of the 80s decade. It feels completely different from all of the other 80s horror that was going on at the time. The 80s horror was obsessed with slashers and gore and teenage horror movies, but this film feels very serious. And I do think it has inspired a lot of the horror filmmakers that we love watching today. And if you've never seen it, if you think you can handle some of the more dark subject matter, I really do recommend it. I think it's a fantastic movie, but it is a tough watch at times. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for continuing to watch the 13th annual Halloween special. Look forward to more videos very soon, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.